Hello everybody and welcome to this video. It's been a while since I've done one of these. It's been a couple of weeks. You may have been wondering where I was. You probably weren't, but just in case you were, I was actually in Japan. I spent a couple of weeks over there, so I didn't have my recording equipment with me or my PlayStation 4 or anything like that, so I couldn't do any other videos. We did put some podcasts up about game music and stuff, so I hope you enjoyed those if you had a chance to listen in. But I'm back now and obviously catching up on the stuff I missed while I was away. And I'm doing the first video since back on the thing that I was kind of looking forward to most on getting back, and that's the first round of DLC for Dead or Alive 6. As a big Dead or Alive fan, as you would have seen from my previous videos, I was always keen on seeing how the DLC would turn out. And I must say I'm really impressed from this very first set, so I thought I'd do a video talking about that. Now, before I talk about what I like about this DLC and what I think it does for Dead or Alive 6, I guess I should quickly mention the cost of it, because that's certainly been a point of debate, and it's certainly been talked about to death already. I'm not going to talk about it too much because there's already been so many opinions floating about the players, and I've actually written an article about DLC in Dead or Alive 6 on digitallydownloaded.net as well, so I don't want to tread over too much ground again, because I think it's an unpleasant conversation anyway, when you just kind of want to talk about the game and you just want to enjoy it for what it is. To have to deal with that kind of monetization and commercial side of things is just irritating. So I will say that it is very expensive. I don't know if Koei Tecmo's done the right thing by kind of forcing you to buy into the season pass rather than be able to buy individual costumes separately, because that's expensive. The DLC season pass costs more than the game itself, and that's going to lock a whole lot of people out of buying it and enjoying the DLC. So I don't know what Koei was doing with that. I'm not defending it, but what I will say is that the DLC is optional. It doesn't ruin the base game, that it's there. It is that kind of very optional add-on that you wouldn't expect to be part of a base game anyway. So it's purely for the fans, and it's purely for the people who kind of see Dead or Alive as a hobby rather than just a separate game. It's for people who spend a lot of time playing it and really want that kind of variety in costumes and things, and want the fan service, because right out of the gates, as you can see, the first round of DLC costumes is wedding dresses for the ladies and wedding suits for the men, and it is pure fan service. So optional fan service, great. Cost is, up to you whether you think it's worthwhile or not. But for me, it's been a good thing. It's added a lot to the game. A lot of you will remember when Dead or Alive 6 was first announced, and the developer was out there talking about how they've de-emphasized some of the sexual elements in order to make the game accessible to a broader audience. There was a bit of concern in the community that some of the character of Dead or Alive would be lost, and I must admit I was one of those who was a bit concerned. For me, a lot of the humour of Dead or Alive comes through that fan service, and without it, I was worried that some of the character of the game would be lost. But at the same time, I suspected that the DLC would be where a lot of this stuff was found, and this first round of DLC certainly confirms that. These wedding dresses and wedding suits for the men are very fan servicey in nature, and certainly set up what you can assume now will be a whole string of everything from school uniforms to swimsuits to Halloween costumes to fetish gear. All of that stuff is coming to Dead or Alive 6. It's just going to be through the DLC that we get it. As to why Koei Tecmo went for a relatively tame kind of fantasy with the wedding dresses first, because while it's certainly a fantasy to see Mary Rose or Nico in a wedding gown, it's not kind of the raunchy sexuality of some of those other costumes that we saw in Dead or Alive 5's DLC. As to why they picked these dresses and the suits, I think part of it was that there wasn't those wedding gowns in Dead or Alive 5. This is a new kind of look at fan service for the series, and Koei wanted to show off that they've still got creative ideas, I guess, after that last game had so many costumes. But at the same time, I think also part of it is they wanted to show off the improved character models and the improved physics engine and the improved way that the clothing works, because with Dead or Alive 5, with the kind of long flowing dresses, there was all kinds of clipping issues, which was obvious enough when it was in movement, but when you tried to pause the game to take screenshots or whatever, it was really obvious. With this one, there's only a couple of clipping issues, and there's so much more throughout the whole thing where the dresses flow kind of naturally, and the kind of the physics and all that kind of works, and photos are much more consistent. You don't lose as many kind of screenshot opportunities because of ugly clipping and whatever. So I'm really impressed with the kind of the tech that this DLC shows off, and I'm certainly looking forward to seeing more of this kind of stuff from the next round of costumes and so on, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of them. As long as Koei keeps making money from people like me, they're going to keep making these costumes. Thanks very much for watching. I had to quickly chat about this because I missed the chance when it was new, and we will see you at the next video.